Think about the last time you entered negotiations over something, either in your personal life or in a work setting. You went in looking forward to being treated fairly and given a reasonable amount of information, right? Yet, if you look closely at the memory, you probably approached your partner with a grain of mistrust and suspicion, and were not willing to give them all the information you had yourself. That happens in most negotiations, and, unfortunately, fosters a toxic bargaining environment as both parties feel the need to reciprocate the reservation and hostility. And this lowers the productivity of the meeting, not an optimal turn of events. Therefore, you can be confident that knowing how best to build trust is an integral skill. We will talk about 5 ways in which you can encourage trust in your interactions. First, make use of the resources you already have. If you have control over who's the person you'll be negotiating with, use your network to guide your selection process. Review your options, look at references, and ask your network for referrals. We already mentioned the importance of knowing your bargaining partner well, learning what connections you share, and name-dropping. This is just as important in establishing a trusting relationship as is anything else. When your counterpart understands they have been recommended by a friend, they will already be less suspicious and more accommodating, both because you share a link and because there is somebody else's recommendation at stake. If, on the other hand, you feel like you're going to miss out on an opportunity by sticking to your network, and you're thinking about negotiating with a stranger, make sure you vet them first, check their credentials, and consult independent sources to try and verify them. Hint: think about LinkedIn's skill endorsement section. It rests on similar logic. A second tactic would be to build a bond before the negotiations start. Really, we cannot stress this enough. If reciprocity is the driving force behind turning negotiations into a sour contest, then it makes sense it will also be the key to nurturing a candid relationship, right? In fact, studies show that both parties and the negotiation outcome benefit from spending time and effort on setting up an informal meeting with no shop talk involved. And if a longer event like lunch is ill-advised because of time pressure, then a 5-minute chat over the phone or Skype has also been proved to be an effective strategy to facilitate rapport. Not only do these gestures of goodwill drive trust levels up universally, but they consistently pay off in terms of economic gains. We mean more mutually beneficial outcomes and higher gross numbers. Not so bad for a lunch or phone call, right? Okay, one reason why trust breaks at the negotiating table is that when conflict arises, the parties begin to overstate their own importance and place greater value on the contributions they have made. Such difference in perspective makes us feel as if we're being cheated, even betrayed. The sense of unfairness is especially prominent when one bargaining side approaches the negotiations with unconditional trust. That said, trust tactic number 3 is about making sure your expectations about the trust level of the negotiations are adequate. What does that mean? Achieve this. For example, you can research them, learn about their interests, trajectory, customs. This is an absolute must if you are negotiating with somebody from a different country or industry. If your field has a field-specific lexis or jargon, familiarizing yourself with it will save you many embarrassing situations and will let them know you respect them and are serious about your partnership. But be careful not to focus too much on making a great impression during the negotiations. And don't forget to make claims. After all, negotiations take place so both parties can get something out of working together. Be honest about what you expect and what you're willing to concede. And this is a big one, remember to explain how valuable to you is each thing you decide to give up. If you forget this step, it is very easy for your counterparty to assign very little importance to your sacrifice and therefore to forget to reciprocate. Number 5. Give your partner some of your time. Don't rush the negotiations. This is especially relevant if you are the person holding the higher position. Give them time to talk and let them explain their standpoint or frustration. Being the person who is actively engaged results in the biggest mutual value because A. You learn what makes the other party tick and avoid it in the future, and B. Their trust in you grows, making them more likely to understand and respect your decisions. As a result, both parties exit the negotiation with a sense of overall fairness, which is what we want, right? Establishing trust is often the result of whether we feel like we're being treated fairly. One of the most effective ways to convey interest in fairness is to engage with the conversation, listen actively, and acknowledge what they bring to the table. When appropriate, show them you appreciate a clever idea they have or how rapidly they are adjusting to the dynamic circumstances. Turns out, the price you need to pay to build trust is not so high after all, is it? Instead of feeling pressured to make concessions so your counterparty doesn't think you mistrust them, employ these tactics and establish a relationship that is much more secure. Great. This concludes the lesson on how to build trust, and next we'll talk about how to fix it when it's broken. It's an easy lesson, so let's go.